Oh, bear with me here. Not live yet. I accidentally set it to unlisted, so you can only see it if you have a special invite. Okay, a minute, I'll change that.
Hi, Brett. We're doing a quick sound check.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we are officially live.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I will now call to order Apex Town Council special meeting for Thursday, February 25th, 2021. And the purpose of this meeting is to take action on public hearing items from our last council meeting from Tuesday, February 23rd. Before we get started, let's do a roll call attendance. So when I call your name, please respond with here for council members. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Here.
Councilmember Killingsworth.
Here.
All right, Councilmember Gant.
Here.
All right, Councilmember Stallings.
Here.
All right, and Councilmember Mahaffey.
Here.
All right, great. We have a full council. Good deal. All right, so we'll go ahead and roll into the public hearings. I have noted here we have a total of 4. And so we'll join public hearing 4 and 5. Presenting is Lauren Stoudemire. And we have annexation and rezoning for 705 annexation and rezoning 20 CZ 16.
Yes, sir. Would you like me to get a overall concept again of this proposed annexation rezoning?
I will. Does anybody want to hear, any of the council members, do you want to hear this again, or are you okay with moving forward? Anyone? Okay, I'm hearing none. So if we're ready to have a discussion on it, I'll open it up and then we can have a discussion if everyone is okay with that. Okay, good. So I'll go ahead and open up. Thank you, Lauren. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing now. And if you have any recorded comments, please present those at this time.
No, sir. I do not have any recorded comments for this rezoning or annexation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll close public hearing and I will turn it over to council members for discussion leading to a possible motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve Killingsworth.
Second, Mahaffey. And to be clear, we're approving the annexation and the rezoning together?
Okay, yes, we're approving the annexation and rezoning together. Yes. So I got a second, Mahaffey. All right, any discussion? All right, with that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor say aye, any opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Stallings. All right, Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I got your first one. Thank you. So that was a unanimous vote. So we'll move on. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. So we'll move on now to public hearing number 6. And this is a public hearing, a possible motion to approve rezoning application 21CZ01.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is rezoning case 21CZ01, Wolf Properties PUD amendment. And I'll bring it into the subject property. Again, this is a PUD amendment. Please let me know if you have any questions or need any other slides.
All right, does anybody need any additional information? Okay, a second.
Okay,
Proceed.
can I ask a question, Mayor?
Sure, go ahead, sir. Yep.
Yeah, Sarah, I was just wondering, with this one, maybe there's no ones like this that I haven't noticed, but are there ways we can put into the original zoning in place where this kind of thing is unnecessary, or is this kind of a inevitable consequence of some of the changes that might be needed in zonings?
In this case, it was inevitable. There were some timing. There were some dates essentially that were in the original PUD, and due to other projects not moving forward on the originally anticipated schedule, there was PUD amendments needed. And during that time, we also saw the opportunity to sort of clean things up now that both projects were further along in the site design.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Mayor, it's just Nicole Dozier. So we didn't hear anything additional from the public either?
No, we have not.
Okay. All right, hearing no questions from the presentation, I'll go ahead and open up this public hearing now. And I think you just confirmed no recorded comments from the public. Is that correct? Just to confirm it?
Correct.
Okay, all right, with that, I'll close public hearing on this item for comments and defer back to council for possible motion to approve and further discussion. Councilmember Mahaffey.
I'll make a motion to approve the Wolf PUD amendment.
All right, thank you, Councilman.
Second, Gant.
All right, second, Gant. Discussion? All right, we'll take the vote. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thanks. Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thanks. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That passed unanimously. All right, we now move to public hearing number 7. Public hearing and possible motion regarding proposed amendments to the 2045 land use map related to the transit-oriented development.
Good afternoon. This is Shannon Cox, and if you'll remember, Tuesday evening we walked through numerous proposed amendments to the future land use map, the 2045 land use map, all related to transit-oriented development. They're each in these areas shown on the screen. I will fast forward to the slide with the staff and planning board recommendation unless there are questions about a specific area that I can help address.
Councilmember Stallings has a question.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cox. I had the most comments from residents on items D and F, so I would just ask you to review those, if you would, one more time.
Certainly. We'll start with area D. So this is downtown west. I believe most of the comments were focused on the area on West Williams Street, but I'm happy to go over all areas. For West Williams Street, the adopted plan shows office and commercial services. The proposed amendment is to remove office, add high density with the apartment designation. Would you like me to go over the other areas in downtown west as well, or focus on this one?
No, you're correct. The most comments I had was from the area that you just suggested, right there off of Williams Street. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I do believe that the public hearing comment referenced proposed rezoning for this site as well. And today we're focused on the land use map amendment, and there will be a public hearing for a potential rezoning as well. And then the second area, the area F, this area, were you particularly interested in the Chapel Ridge comments?
I think you're reading my mind, Damon.
So for the Chapel Ridge area, the adopted plan shows medium density residential, and the proposed amendment is high density, medium high density residential. This was the area where the planning committee of town council did have a neighborhood meeting specifically for the Chapel Ridge neighborhood. I believe when we met with this neighborhood initially, office was included in the proposed amendments. That was removed based on the discussion. And then what was moved forward for the full community review is what's shown on the map. And this is what staff and planning board recommend.
All right, thank you.
This is Nicole Dozier. I also had issues because I was around for this original discussion with the neighbors in this area, and I have, some concerns around this. So I'm not sure if I will be supportive of this particular amendment right now. So just wanted to flag that. Not at this time. I may not at this time. I'd like to hear others if they have thoughts about why we should make this change.
Ms. Dozier, I can chime in maybe. Well, first of all, I think the neighborhood meeting with these residents was largely related to the history that you reference. And so we didn't want them feeling blindsided. I think this is a staff suggestion, but we didn't want them feeling blindsided, and we know there's some ill will from previous votes related to zonings in the area. So the direction that we initially gave staff, I think this actually was, Terry and I kind of were tag team on this, but I would say maybe it's I just thought that higher density usually around transit could help with the transit system, as well as be appropriate areas where we can maybe increase some density. So that's kind of the impetus. And I know we knew there was a bus stop here that planned in the future for the Go Apex. So that was kind of why it was highlighted. I would argue that its proximity to other high density to the northwest, to the northeast, and walkability. Hopefully, if there's a connection to Beaver Creek Commons, walkability to the shopping centers made this, I thought, a good candidate, and that's why it was part of the discussion. Beyond just the transit proximity, that will be the case. But I acknowledge that there was definitely. I was actually an audience for that meeting that you referenced, and it was. I understand that it was a tough vote and controversial. In the neighborhood meeting, I can tell you that I think the point of view of some of the residents has shifted related to redevelopment of their neighborhood. Not the entire, not everybody, of course, but I think some of them. Well, I believe Ms. Cox. I'm not sure she shared the neighborhood survey that happened there. Yeah, actually, if that's part of some record somewhere, that'd be helpful to know. But yeah, there was much more, I think, acceptance of a higher density than what this medium shows compared to what I perceive as it being a few years ago.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to this tract, and staff can confirm, I think part of the equation, at least in my mind, is I know there's discussion of a project being proposed on the northern half of Chapel Ridge that's not yet developed. And I sort of have an issue with trying to legislate kind of the feasibility of that project as it's already gone underway. It feels a little weird to like influence that. So I guess what I'm saying is when that project comes through, since it's already underway, if that's the case, and that's my understanding, that we can just evaluate that on its merits, regardless of what we do here today. So is that right? Shannon, are you aware of this?
I know that there is some potential development interest in this area. I couldn't speak in if Amanda or Diane are on. I'm sure that they could to what's being proposed and where it is in the process, whether it's beyond the pre-application review.
Sure. Well, I don't want to make us get into it. I guess the point I was just trying to make is if something's in progress, underway, and this process has gone down that path before we make this update, I would be pretty flexible, regardless of what the land map eventually says when we consider that rezoning, because I think we should hold them harmless for stuff that's kind of in flight. It's a little, a little difficult to, a little unreasonable in my mind to change the map underneath them and say, no, you don't conform or do conform, or change the map form for that matter too. So I think if that happens, we should consider that on its merits. With regards to the rest of it, looking at it, this is a pretty big, dense block of high density potentially. Is there any concerns there? Like, I know, again, this comes back to the project, which I don't think we can dig into, but it almost seems like with this much density, we'll need more egresses on either Olive Chapel or Beaver Creek Commons if we're going to put high density apartments everywhere. And I'm not sure how feasible that is.
I think that some of those questions are things that we would answer as part of reviewing a site plan, because we do have specific requirements for access and the number of units. We have, certain access points required based on 200 or 300 units, and not necessarily some things that we can answer as part of the land use map amendments. There is access to Beaver Creek Commons, although it's roundabout. You can kind of see that it's a little bit of a maze to get through there. And then there is clearly access on Olive Chapel Road. Whether additional access points may be possible, I think we'd have to determine as part of development that could potentially move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate the the explanation I received from both council members and from Ms. Cox. I just think because of a few of the things that I've already shared and some of the things that Mr. Mahaffey just spoke about as well. I don't know how we're going to handle this if we're going to do it one by one, but probably not going to be a fan of changing this at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Stallings.
Yes, I would like some clarification from Ms. Cox or other council members. It was my understanding, I know we've gotten some resident input about the Chapel Ridge section. It's my understanding that resident or two was in favor of the medium high density residential amendment or what as it's shown in front of us. So Mayor Pro Tem, is your concern about that part, or is it about the high density residential striping areas, or is it more historical, which maybe I'm not as aware of since I maybe wasn't on the council at that time?
A little bit of a mix for me. So the historical and then the size of the high density and changing it. We already just, put a lot of work in the 2045 now, and there could be projects in process, it sounds like. And I think, the neighbors are the most impacted people, are used to how it's shown now, and to create a larger portion of high density in this area at this time for a future 2045 is something I'm just not interested in doing right now.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Mahaffey, did you have additional? Are you good?
No, Mayor, I left my hand up.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, Councilmember Killingsworth.
Well, my bell just rang, so my dog may be barking here in the background. I apologize. So I would be in favor of the apartment designations. I think it might be in my mind, I think it would be a good idea to remove the high density from the Chapel Ridge area and leave it at a medium to medium high density. So the lightest, or the yellow, I guess you could call it, in a peach color. That's kind of what I'm hearing so far.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. And staff, are there any comments for this? I'm sorry, before you proceed with that, Councilmember Stallings.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to go back to the number D, if we could, before we open up. Is that okay, Mayor, at this time, if I had a question about that?
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Cox, could we go back to the item D on the West Williams one more time? I would just like to have some discussion about this. I think most of us have been notified by the residents in Amherst with their concerns about the topography and the slope of the land. And when I went out and visited a couple of weeks ago, I heard concerns about, stormwater runoff. But in our discussion, I think Councilmember Mahaffey was with me at the visit. I think we communicated that we have a really strong stormwater management team right now. And I think there's, some discussion that we think actually their stormwater concerns could be helped by future development on this site. The biggest concern that I was hearing, and maybe some of you all were as well, is if we potentially have this site as an affordable housing project, which may or may not happen. There was a concern about the vertical size of a potential development on the land, because it's such a restricted area because of streams on the property and because of the slope of the land. There was a real concern from some of the neighbors who are adjacent to that in terms of what that visual appearance could be for them. And I just was interested in other people's opinions. In one of my conversations with a council member, we had talked about possibly in the future, we could really advocate for some mitigation on plantings or buffers to help maybe the neighbors in Amherst should future development happen in this spot. Do my council colleagues have any comments about their impressions or conversations with the neighbors at Amherst?
All right, Councilman Gann. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Stallings. Can I redirect that to Mrs. Cox? Because I think if you're talking about the vertical part at least, or maybe any of these issues that are brought up, can you tell us if it stays the same office and commercial rather than the A and the orange stripe? Is there a vertical limit to the office commercial that's any different than what the A stripe would be?
So not that's controlled by the land use map, but that control is potentially affected with the zoning. I don't know if there are existing controls in the zoning for this property, or if we want to get into that today, since it may be more, for the public hearing with the rezoning that limit the height of what could be built here, if it's office or commercial. And we also don't know if there's, potential mitigation or other controls that may be included in a potential rezoning to address the concerns that have been brought up. But the land use map doesn't control height, whether that's commercial, office, or residential height.
Councilmember Stallings, yes. Oh.
And I'm thinking several steps ahead, and I realize that, but I do think it's important to think several steps ahead in some ways, because this property has a lot of restrictions on it because of the slope, the topography, the streams. So I'm just trying to be as thoughtful as we can as we deliberate on this item, for the neighbors, the long-term neighbors that are in Amherst.
And Mayor, my raised hand doesn't work, so I apologize if I'm talking over someone. So thanks for the question, Councilmember Stallings. I was around for previous things related to this area, and was in a woman's yard that would be looking at anything that would be built there, and looked at the height compared to where her yard was. And so, so it was that and some other things historically with the property where I was not interested in making the change that was requested at the time. So I do think, I understand what you're saying. There are things that are steps ahead, but that are, if we make this change, it just creates more of an expectation for more things to be on the table that may not be the best thing for the people there who were expecting one thing and may be getting another.
All right, Councilman Gann.
Yeah, I think that's Mr. Ocher, I think that's a good point. And I would expect a vigorous rezoning debate on this parcel if it comes to us. Maybe the most vigorous we've had in years. Other ones, I would assume depending on how we go with the Olive Ridge, I would think there'd be vigorous, maybe even more, maybe the same, vigorous debates on that. But yeah, and assuming that a land use map change is going to mean a rezoning approval, from my point of view, is not the case necessarily. I mean, it could facilitate the application coming up, but a yes or no, I think, is totally dependent on the zoning application that we see. And that's how I'm going to proceed. However we go with these maps, that's how I'm going to proceed. Is we're going to have these debates, I think, that are good ones about all this stuff related to the parcels themselves.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Ms. Ken.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to point out that we do have an application for a senior affordable housing complex that has been submitted. It's been under review. It's scheduled for public hearing in March, so you will be seeing this next month. They are applying for the 9% LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit through the county. And so this is really their only chance to have this heard in March because that application is due to Wake County in April. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you so much. And Councilmember Killingsworth.
I just wanted to also, I appreciate the comments that Councilmember Stallings has made because, that's something that I've always advocated for is long-term thinking regarding our planning. So, thinking several steps ahead, I think, is not unreasonable. So, I also think that there are ways that we can mitigate this to support both affordable housing in this area and also support the neighbors in Amherst that have concerns. So.
Okay, thank you so much. And Mrs. Ken, did you have any other information? Your hand is up.
I apologize. I just didn't put it down. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Councilmember Stallings.
I would just like to say thank you all for your comments, and I think you along with me are really trying to hear both sides of this, and I appreciate your comments, Councilmember Killingsworth, too, because if this is to move forward with affordable housing, I really will be a strong advocate to try to mitigate, and try to support the neighbors in Amherst. And if they're listening, I just want to say that for the record that I do hear them, and I think you all hear them as well, and I think. Well, I, for one, will advocate that we mitigate to try to make this a win-win, in the future with how this might play out.
Okay. And Councilman Gant.
Yeah, Mayor, I also want to add real quick that Terry and I initiated this work before the affordable housing plan, before we knew anything about any kind of rezoning on that property. So what I like to try to imagine is this land use map is meant to be independent of rezonings and not affected by current ones. Unfortunately, with town growing as fast as we are, this happens sometimes. I think on our 2045 one, we had a couple that were kind of in progress too that are unfortunate. But at the time, this was our areas identified and unrelated to any kind of project. So I've been trying to keep that mindset as much as we can. For my own mind, is like this is meant to be not necessarily it's a forward-looking document, not supposed to be affected by any rezonings that might be coming up soon.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Councilman Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo my colleagues' comments there that in my mind, the discussion on land use map is forward-looking. It's meant to be a policy statement on our part to what developers should consider if they have a parcel in their hand or they're going to purchase one. And to that end, when we get a situation like is inevitable, where there's going to be stuff in flight as we make these changes, I would advocate for maximum flexibility on just in terms of fairness, just general commercial fairness about someone who may be down the road with a plan. And if they do have a specific plan, then what we should do is evaluate that plan on its merits when at the appropriate time. Regardless of what we do here. So this is, like my colleague just said, meant to be very forward-looking. It's meant to guide someone who hasn't started yet a project but wants to see what the town would be interested in an area. So to that end, regarding the debate about the impact of this property, I think that's a discussion that we're going to have when that rezoning comes up, which we know it's coming. And kind of what I said about the other property, like let's, in my mind, to discuss this now, I think it's not the best time because we don't have all the information. We don't have the ability to. Maybe there's some stuff that could be done that we get as a zoning condition at the time. So I would advocate for marking this area with, I guess, just flexibility, and then we'll cross the other bridge when we come to it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we go into, all right, we got one, Councilman Gant.
Sorry to keep chiming in. Related to I think Ms. Dozier's comment, I think doing these one by one, when we proceed to the vote, would be my preference, so that we can kind of make sure that one doesn't derail the whole thing, if everybody's in agreement with that.
Okay. All right, and Councilmember Stallings.
Yes. Thank you and thank you all for tolerating all of my comments. But going back now to F, Councilmember Killingsworth, did you have an amendment to what's being presented, or are you okay with what's being presented? I wanted to understand your comment on that with Chapel Ridge.
My comment for the Chapel Ridge subdivision was that we changed to medium density and medium high density residential and remove the high density residential designation from just the Chapel Ridge.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. My thought listening to this discussion is rather than trying to tweak it at the moment, like let's try to find the set that we agree on and approve that. And we can review and go through another round in planning committee, hearing the feedback about what to do with the rest of it. So, I mean, I guess my response to Councilmember Killingsworth is, rather than try to change, I would rather go with either the presented plan on the right or stick with the original on the left for now and try to go through another round of revisions and try to debate over what type of stripes here. If that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
So basically suggesting that we refer Area F back to Planning Committee for further discussion.
I would actually, sorry for jumping in, but I believe we agreed on the apartment designation for Beaver Creek itself. Is that correct? And our discussion is specifically the Chapel Ridge area, not all Area F, but the one segment. We can make clear to staff where the agreement is and let that go forward, and then put it on our agenda next month or the month after to get another round of feedback would be my suggestion.
Okay, so just removing the Chapel Ridge Road from discussion at this point and continuing with the rest. Is that correct?
If there's not support for it as presented, my preference would be to leave it as is, and then go to some more discussion about what we could find support for.
All right, anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item. Staff, are there any recorded comments for this?
There are none.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll close public hearing for this item and refer back to council rather, and for further discussion leading to a possible motion. I know it was recommended by Councilman Gant to take each location or area and vote on those separately. So any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All right, so the recommendation for Area A, we'll go ahead and take a vote for that as presented. And all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. All right.
I think
Mayor.
we're ready to make a motion.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yep, I'm jumping ahead. My fault.
If we're ready, Mayor, maybe we could just do A through D together.
Okay.
Save some time. I'll make a motion to approve areas A, B, C, and D, and consistent with the planning staff recommendation.
Okay, motion to approve A, B, C, and D as presented. All right.
Just to clarify, I believe D was one of the ones that was controversial. Did you intend?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're correct. A, B, C, and E.
Yeah.
Are the ones that are not controversial.
Just to make sure.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's correct. A, B, C, and E as presented is my motion.
Motion A, B, C, and E as presented. All right. Thank you so much. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Killingsworth.
All right. Second, Killingsworth. All right. Discussion. All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote for this. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier,
Aye.
Councilmember Killingsworth,
Aye.
all right, Councilmember Gant,
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings,
Aye.
all right, and Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, that passed unanimously. All right. All right, so now we'll look at the remaining ones, and we have D, is that correct? D and F. So we need to do those separately. All right, so is there a motion for area D?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve D as presented.
All right, motion to approve D as presented.
I'll
Can
second
we pull it
that,
back up on the
Killingsworth.
screen? Mahaffey, second. And again, to clarify, I think the discussion about the specific project, that we defer to the actual rezoning. Right now, that's just a forward-looking land use map, which in my mind doesn't impact the stuff in flight.
All right, great. So we have a second. Mahaffey, discussion. All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
No.
Okay. Councilmember Killingsworth,
Aye.
Councilmember Gant,
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings,
No.
and then Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, passes 3-2. All right, now we move to area F. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'll give it a shot to make a motion consistent with what I said earlier. Seeing as how there's not a lot of consensus on this point, I move that we approve the four parcels, the four labeled A for the department designation as presented, and that we refer the remaining potential changes back to planning committee for more consideration.
Okay.
Killingsworth, I'll second that.
All right, second Killingsworth. Any discussion before we vote? All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier,
Aye.
Councilmember Killingsworth,
Aye.
all right, Councilmember Gant,
No.
Councilmember Stallings,
Aye.
and Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, passes 4-1. All right, is any other from staff? I think we're good. We covered it all. All right, great. All right, with that, I have no further business to present. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, thank you, everyone.